Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Ardis, and this is the Dr. Ardis Show. And I'm so excited to spend some time with you today to educate you on one of my favorite all-natural antidotes, nutrients found on God's great earth. All right, and that actual substance actually comes from a tree. And it's actually found in two products you will find at the Dr. Ardis Show. In fact, it's the very first ingredient with the highest amount in it called CardioFlow. It's also in another product at the Dr. Ardis Show to help anybody on earth reduce acne, pimples, zits, you name it. Anything dealing with the skin, it'll improve. And that substance is called Guggul Sterones. It's actually Guggul Resin extract. It comes in many different names, but it rhymes with the same internet search engine, Google. So you'll often see it pronounced Google, Guggul Sterones, Guggul Resin extract. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. It comes from several different plants, but primarily it comes from a tree on the other side of the world. So I cannot wait to educate you on why I am so passionate about this substance that God gave us that has such amazing benefits, cardiovascular wise, blood sugar wise, skin wise. You're going to be shocked at what you're about to learn about Guggul Resin extract and why it is a powerful tool to improve your cardiovascular situation in your body. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Ardis. This is the Dr. Ardis Show, and I am really thrilled to spend some time with you today, educating you on just a few of the amazing, healing, miraculous benefits of a nutrient that is actually found in the sap of a tree and in some other plants like Boswellia. And this substance actually reads and sounds just like the internet search engine all of you have come to know and love called Google. Now, it's not spelled like the internet search engine Google, but it is pronounced exactly the same in many circumstances. So you'll see it spelled Guggul, which actually is pronounced Google. You'll also see it isolated and put into many herbal extract supplements called Guggul Sterones. You'll see it called Guggulu with a U on the end, 3 U's, 3 G's. It doesn't matter how it's pronounced or how it's spelled. It's the same thing. You will find it as the very first ingredient in the Dr. Ardis Show product called CardioFlow from Nature Wins. So it's the very first ingredient in there at the highest amount because of its incredible benefits to your blood, your heart, your blood vessels. It is incredible. Wait till I show you what it does with total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, called your good cholesterol, what it does with triglycerides, which are considered to be bad for you if they're at higher levels, and what it does with LDL cholesterol, which is called bad cholesterol. In fact, it's probably one thing that stands in the way as a mortal enemy to the entire statin drug industry. And I'm not joking, just wait. And then I'm going to show you some studies of its potency of being almost 100 times more effective at improving blood sugar levels than diabetes drugs, 100 times more potent and found to improve bradycardia, tachycardia, even when compared in studies to drugs prescribed right now by your cardiologist for those two conditions. And if you didn't know what it was, you're about to learn. So anybody you know or love who has blood sugar handling issues, arthritis concerns, insulin sensitivity, which would be issues in type 2 diabetes, included in type 1 diabetes also for many. And if anybody you know is obese, wants to shrink their waistline, Guggul is your substance. Guggul. So I cannot wait to dive into these studies and educate you on some of the most incredible benefits of this life-saving nutrient Mother Nature gave us. It's the Dr. Ardis Show called CardioFlow. It's the very first ingredient, and it's also found in our Ardis Labs, now Nature Wins, Clear Skin Complex, which helps teenagers and any adult and age individuals on earth who are dealing with pimples, zits, acne, you name it, even cystic acne with nodules in your skin. This substance actually outperforms every acne drug on earth. And I'm going to show you. It's pretty exciting. All right, so let's dive into what are the miraculous healing benefits of this substance called Guggul, Guggul Resin extract, or often labeled Guggul Sterones. Can't wait to show you, because this isn't anything the medical profession is going to tell you, or you're going to see in big TV commercials or radio commercials while you're enjoying your sporting events or TV shows. So if you're not going to get it there, you're going to get it here at the Dr. Ardis Show. So I'm going to dive into a presentation on some of the summaries of the high 30,000 foot level view of all the benefits of Guggul Sterones that we're aware of. Not all of them. I'm just going to give a high level review, because this substance is just miraculous. And there's a reason why God gave it to us and why Mother Nature made it. All right, so let's dive into this PowerPoint. And remember, at the drardisshow.com, underneath the Patient Resources tab, if you find this beneficial and you have loved ones who are struggling with these health concerns, please let them know that the entire PowerPoint presentation that includes every slide I'm about to show you, it even includes towards the end of this presentation, all the human studies with this and all of the doses they used and the frequency at which they recommended patients to use it to lower their cholesterol to normal levels, improve their blood sugar levels, all of them, fasting blood sugar, glucose tolerance test, all of it is improved with this one substance. And that's why it was so significant that I include it as a very, very potent healing nutrient in both my heart product and our skin product, CardioFlow and Clear Skin Complex. Let's dive into that presentation right now. All right, so what is Guggul and why you should love it is the title of this presentation. So let's dive in. You can scan this QR code right now. This gives you access. You just put in your email. You will get notified on every presentation I do on topics now in the media, health related. And there's a lot of those in the Make America Healthy Again movement that's just been introduced to Americans. And then also all nutrients research, truths on drugs, truths on their injuries, their black box warnings, their side effects, and then what is published in medical journals and scientific journals of natural substances that are just as equally powerful and least toxic than those drug alternatives. All right, so let's dive into 11 amazing health benefits of Guggul you just can't beat. And you will see it spelled several different ways. This comes from curejoy.com. This is a tree found in the south parts of Asia. And this is the tree at which the most Guggul lipid resin extract is extracted from and applied in our supplement and to many around the world. Number one, Guggul resin extract. The sap of this tree, it fights cholesterol disorders and protects the heart. And I'm going to read the highlighted sentences because we have a lot of slides here and a lot of very powerful information I need you to know, because if the mainstream media is not going to tell you, and your medical doctor is not going to be taught this, someone has to show you the truth. Well, I'm going to dive into these studies that are being referenced in this article, but these are the high-level benefits you're going to see of Guggul resin extract, or Guggul Sterones as they call it. Here's number one. Let's read together. The cholesterol-lowering benefits of Guggul are well known in Ayurvedic medicine, making it a popular remedy for high cholesterol. High cholesterol is linked to an elevated risk of atherosclerosis, plaque in your arteries, coronary heart disease, and even strokes. By fighting this, Guggul helps keep your heart healthy. Pushkar Guggul, which is a formulation that combined Guggul resin extract with another herb called Pushkarmul, helped reduce chest pain and restored ECG readings back to normal in 200 patients with IHD. Heart disease. It lowers inflammation. Guggul reduces cell damage. Guggul Sterones balances lipid levels. That's cholesterol and fats in the body. All cholesterol or fats are lipids. It also helps prevent blood clots. Well, if you've read my book, Moving Beyond COVID-19 Lies, there's a whole chapter titled, Houston, we have a blood clotting problem, related to COVID and the vaccines. Did you know Guggul resin extract, the first ingredient in our CardioFlow, helps to prevent blood clots? Did you know that Guggul fights inflammatory diseases and eases symptoms? And in lab studies, they were able to show that it can suppress protein complexes like NF-kappa B, which you don't need to know if you're not aware, that are involved in inflammatory responses anywhere in your body. Do you know anybody that lives with inflammation? Chronic activation of these has been linked to many inflammatory diseases, and this can translate to many benefits. Guggul is a Google-based formulation called triphala-guggulu that can inhibit major enzymes responsible for cartilage destruction. Well, how many of you have decreased disc space in your spine, joint cartilage that is actually now arthritic, which is a hallmark of arthritis? Did you know Guggul sterones or Guggul can actually help reduce that? In one study, they found people with osteoarthritis, pay attention, everybody, saw an improvement in pain, mobility, stiffness, function after taking just 500 milligrams of Guggul extracts for a month. Well, just so you know, our CardioFlow has 300 milligrams at the dose I recommend. So if you took double the dose every day, if you struggle with osteoarthritis and you were taking CardioFlow, you would see improvements in your arthritis. Animal studies also showed that Guggul reduces the thickness of your joint swelling called edema. Do you know anybody who have swollen joints like ankles, knees, hips, wrist, elbows, shoulders, which in turn means less discomfort and pain? Guggul is also used as an adjuvant therapy, an additional therapy in Ayurvedic medicine to treat sinus problems and respiratory illnesses. CardioFlow, did you have any idea it could help you with that? Ranging from bronchitis, pharyngitis, to coughs, colds, and asthma. And yes, if I knew any child or adult that had asthma, I would always recommend CardioFlow to them. Guggul has therapeutic and protective effects on any kind of colon inflammation. Well, my product CardioFlow, you're going to swallow. Guess where it's going to go? Into your intestines first. So it can actually, it's already been proven to make improvements in inflammatory diseases like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. Now read that last statement. Subject saw a significant decline in disease severity of Crohn's and ulcerative colitis after being treated with Guggul sterones. First ingredient in CardioFlow. Number 3, did you know Guggul detoxifies the body and protects the liver and kidneys? Guggul is often suggested as a remedy medicine to detox and revive the body if it has just recovered from a major illness or undergone prolonged antibiotic treatment. One of Guggul's other most important applications could be its liver protective effect, and that it is potential to protect your liver against damage. That's what hepatoprotective means. Guggul sterone, the major active component in Guggul, boosts the excretion of cholesterol. It helps your body to excrete cholesterol as well as bile acids. Do you know anybody that has issues with gallbladder, gallstones, or liver function? Giving your system a detox. Animal studies also show that Guggul has the potential to counter kidney damage from systemic infections or drugs by inhibiting inflammatory responses. Now, this is important. How many of you know people that are actually on prescription medications, then later are being diagnosed with chronic kidney failure and are now on dialysis? Did you know that all drugs cause liver and kidney damage? And did you know that's the primary reason for so many people to be on dialysis and why there's so many dialysis clinics in the country? Ask Warren Buffett. He's the primary investor in all dialysis clinics from the beginning because he saw a trend in all people taking more drugs than ever in America, and he knew that it created liver and kidney issues and people would need dialysis. Did you know that Guggul boosts immune function and fights bacteria infections? Specifically, you're about to learn 2 specific bacterial infections it works against, and this is very important for current news in America today. Guggul can also help treat urinary disorders, UTIs. In one study, men with an enlarged prostate who experienced painful or difficult urination, urinary retention, and excessive urination saw a reduction in their symptoms after taking Guggul. In fact, Guggul is said to help boost your white blood cell count, which is your antibodies to kill infections. Researchers have demonstrated the effectiveness of gum resin extract of Guggul against a range of bacteria, including staph bacteria that cause staph infections, E. coli, which I go through in depth the last 3 years on how shedding from the vaccinated, they use E. coli bacteria to do that, which cause GI intestinal problems like diarrhea, as well as fever, nausea, and vomiting. Guggul is also anti-helminthic. Helminths, by the way, are worms, parasitic worms, tapeworms and roundworms. As you see in the last part of the sentence, it helps you fight off infections of intestinal worms. Did you know Guggul counters skin problems like wrinkles and acne? I introduced that at the beginning of the show. Lab studies show that Guggul extracts can not only boost the production of type 1 collagen in your skin, if you want anti-aging, Guggul does it, which strengthens skin cells, but also reduces the production of enzymes that damage your skin. It can help your skin look smooth and supple and reduce the depth of both small and large wrinkles. This anti-inflammatory and antioxidant herbal medicine can also help with acne. which is why it's in my Nature Wins Clear Skin Complex. When these extracts were given to test subjects, humans, with nodulocystic acne for 3 months, the lesions progressively reduced. The remedy was also found to be more effective than antibiotic remedy tetracycline for those with oily skin. Almost everybody with acne is put on tetracycline, an antibiotic. Did you know that Guggul Sterones actually was found to be almost 500 times more potent than tetracycline? Actually, in that study, they took 25 milligrams of Guggul Sterone and compared that to 500 milligrams of tetracycline, and Guggul Sterone still outbeat its ability to clear acne better than the drug. So maybe that's not 500 times. It was 25 into 500. That's a lot. All right, so 25 milligrams versus 500 milligrams of a drug, and it still beat it. Number 6, it eases canker sores and gingivitis. To treat any superficial wounds, mix a half a cup of warm water with a crushed Guggul lipid tablet and apply topically. This helps wound healing. If you have painful canker sores in your mouth or suffer from gingivitis or early gum disease, Guggul is worth a try thanks to its anti-inflammatory and antibacterial activity. Guggul also boosts metabolism and fights obesity. I'm about to show you the real-world numbers on how the waist reduces in size just in a few weeks of using Guggul extract and what's called a Skinfold test. You'll learn here in just a minute. Guggul acts on multiple fronts to help your metabolism, which helps you burn fat. It boosts thyroid function, revs up digestion, and improves your metabolism. What's more, it prevents the conversion of undigested carbohydrates into triglycerides, and it lowers blood cholesterol. It also counters oxidative stress and inflammation associated with obesity. If you wondered why CardioFlow is such an important product and why it's been out of stock for a little while, and it might be periodically, is because so many people love the heart benefits and see it, and then all these other massive improvements in their health. Guggul Sterones also protects the brain and fights Alzheimer's disease. Studies show that Guggul's bioactive component, Guggul Sterone, can enhance cognitive ability, your brain function. It's neuroprotective and may be able to help those with memory deficits or learning impairment, making it a promising alternative remedy for dementia. Somebody should have called Joe Biden and made sure he had Guggul Sterones and my CardioFlow. Guggul's neuroprotective features could extend to help those with epilepsy, paralysis, and polyneuropathy. In Alzheimer's, there's something called amyloid plaques. That's what they see in the brain. And they blame all your dementia and your worsening symptoms of Alzheimer's on these amyloid plaque formations. Did you know Guggul Sterones prevents it? Amyloid precursor protein is a risk factor for Alzheimer's. High cholesterol levels may have a role to play in this amyloid precursor protein processing. But Guggul can help fight this because of its cholesterol lowering and antioxidant properties. Guggul also helps counter the enzyme acetylcholine esterase, which breaks down acetylcholine. And anybody paying attention to COVID, that's how COVID symptoms were created, by blocking acetylcholine with spike proteins that were identical to venom and other neurotransmitters, and impairs learning and memory. Guggul Sterones also helps blood glucose control in diabetics. Guggul plays a role in both glucose, blood sugar, and lipid fats metabolism, making it a promising remedy for controlling blood sugar levels. Guggul resin extract could help lower levels of elevated blood sugar, as well as glycosylated hemoglobin, called A1C, another indicator of diabetes. So if you know anybody that has hemoglobin A1C at high levels over several months and they have diabetes, you might want to tell them to try CardioFlow, Guggul Sterone, or go get a supplement of Guggul Sterone alone, or Guggul lipid extract anywhere online. So the last statement reads, therefore, Guggul Sterone holds potential for diabetics who want to achieve better blood sugar control. Animal studies, and remember, animal studies, they study everything in animals before humans, because in mice, rats, rabbits, ferrets, they all have the same genes we do, and they publish. It's going to happen in an animal. It's going to happen in a human. Studies have also shown that Guggul Sterones in Guggul can improve insulin production. Couple this with its ability to help with obesity and lower cholesterol levels, both which are risk factors for diabetes, and the case for Guggul becomes stronger. Guggul also improves thyroid function. Well, how many millions of women and men have thyroid problems? Have you seen the waistlines of many Americans? They have thyroid problems and metabolism problems. By aiding thyroid function, Guggul also indirectly helps arrest hair loss and premature graying of your hair. Notice my hair is not very gray. I'm also not very old. Studies show that Guggul can help treat autoimmune linked thyroid problems, autoimmune thyroid problems, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease people, by increasing T3 concentration. It also could stimulate the conversion of thyroid hormone T4 to T3. As another animal study found a compound called ketosteroid in Guggul exhibits strong thyroid stimulatory action, turns on the thyroid, aiding the thyroid's iodine uptake and boosting the activity of enzymes linked to thyroid activity. You've heard me educate many people on the benefits of selenium and iodine when it comes to thyroid hormone production. You have to have it. Now you're learning here that the first ingredient in CardioFlow will help your body absorb iodine into the thyroid to improve your thyroid's function. Did you know that Guggul Sterone is the first ingredient in CardioFlow and the second highest ingredient in my Ardis Labs Nature Wins Clear Skin Complex? Did you know it is able to fight tumors? Guggul Sterones and Guggul may also have potential in the treatment of cancer. Research highlights its potential against a range of tumors like breast cancer, leukemia, lung cancer, ovarian cancer, skin cancer, and multiple myeloma. I doubt your oncologist knows about that. Guggul is believed to act by inhibiting DNA synthesis, preventing the growth of new tumor cells, and by inducing cell death of those tumor cells. This is a clinical study. We're going to now dive into the research studies where I'm going to show you the evidence of what I just highlighted or benefits of Guggul Sterones and Guggul. This is a clinical study to evaluate the efficacy of a herbal formula for obesity. That's primary ingredient is Guggul Sterones. And they call it HFO02 in overweight individuals. These were the eligibility criteria for the people included in this study. Overweight individuals of either sex, and they were going to check their BMI. The BMI had to be above 25 and less than 30. They were given 2 tablets of this herbal mix with Guggul Sterones. 500 milligrams were given orally twice a day before meals with water for a duration of 90 days or 3 months. Guggul at 50 milligrams of this complex was included. And after 90 days of the period of the research study, those in the study were followed for another 30 days to assess did they rebound weight gain or any additional weight loss. So the total duration of the study was actually 4 months or 120 days. 500 milligrams of this, 50 milligrams only of Guggul twice a day. BMI was calculated. That's how they calculated it. Their waist to hip ratio was calculated by dividing WC by HC. Skin fold thickness were measured on the waist hip ratio is what WHR is. Skin fold thickness were measured on the right side of the body using Harpenden skin fold caliber following standard protocol. Now, I have to explain to you why the skin fold test is so significant. Do you know how many people get excited when they can't tell they're losing weight, but they can tell changes in their waist size, their forearm thickness, their thigh thickness, and clothes is fitting differently? That's one of the things most people get excited about first. Well, wait till you see the skin fold test reactions of just using Guggul Sterones as a part of an herbal remedy to lower obesity. The participants were then provided with the study drug and asked to report at a study site every 15 days. And you'll see, for example, on days 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, they were going to be weighed, BMI measured, and their skin fold test determined. The treatment was stopped on day 90, and then the participants were called for a last follow-up on day 120. There was a total of 18 people in the study, of which 14, 6 males and 8, completed the entire study. The circumferential measurements of the waist, hip, and neck, so measuring all around the neck, hips, and waist, showed gradual reduction throughout the study period, which was statistically significant on day 90. So within 3 months, they saw a very significant difference, and it was measurable in the circumference of the neck, waist, and thighs. The significant decrease in waist and hip did not reflect in corresponding decrease in waist to hip ratio. So they saw a waist and hip improvement individually, but not really so much in both cases on everybody. The other circumferential measurements, although showed reduction, but did not reach to statistical significance. All the skin fold thicknesses showed gradual decrease during the study period, and that was statistically significant on both day 90 and 120 as compared to day 0 when they started. There was a steady decrease also in the values of C-reactive protein till day 90 during treatment. Remember, they stopped taking on day 90. Do you know what C-reactive protein is? This is one of the things they're looking for in your blood if they think someone's had a heart attack. They're looking for this inflammatory protein called C-reactive protein. This means somebody has inflammation, but the level of this stuff, C-reactive protein, CRP, you see on your blood work, actually helps doctors know and estimate when it was you had a heart attack if you weren't even aware you had one. So they saw a steady decrease every single day of this inflammatory marker that's indicative in heart disease or already had a heart attack or stroke. They saw that go down every single day or every period they measured for 90 days of taking this substance. Here's the effect of this herbal remedy with Guggul sterones. They're on all their measurements. So you're going to see day 0, day 30, day 60, day 90, day 120, each of those measurements. I'm going to highlight some of the most incredible changes in these individual measurements for just 30 days and 120 days of this study. Let's look at the waist circumference. Look at this. On day 0, they saw an average size of 98 inches or centimeters or whatever the measurement is. The average was 98. By day 30, the average went to 98.42. Then by day 60, it was 96.67. Could you imagine seeing a decrease by that amount in 2 months? By day 90, it was 96. And then by day 120, it still went down another inch or so to 95, from 98 to 95. That's their waist circumference. Look at their neck. From day 0 to day 120. They saw a reduction by 2 centimeters also. And then let's go here to further parameters. Let's look at skin fold thickness. Look at those numbers. The biceps, the triceps, the subscapular. These are all in millimeter measurements. And the suprailiac in the waistline. Look at these numbers, just using Guggul sterones in this herbal complex for 90 days. From day 0, you'll see the biceps was 116. It went down to 99 by day 120 in millimeter measurements. The triceps shrunk from 236 to 222. That's actually 14 millimeters. Well, how do your shirts fit? Subscapular, around the shoulders, 328 to 300. They lost 28 millimeters of measurement. And then look at the suprailiac. This is in your waist. It went from 215 to 198. That's a reduction in 17 millimeters. Well, if your belt or your pants don't fit very well, you might want to consider Guggul sterone. This is the Skinfold test, and I'm just going to show you. This is a 2-minute video just explaining to you what this test is. I want you to see so you know what you're looking at.
We'll be showing you the 3 sites for women. The first site is the tricep, located please turn around. Ask the client to hold their arm at a 90-degree angle, and then measure in centimeters from the acromion proper down to the elbow. It is 35 centimeters long, and you want to make a mark at the halfway. Now this is a vertical test, so you want to make your arm vertical and then cross it horizontally to mark your spot for testing. Go ahead and relax. And our second test site will be the abdominal. Again, measuring in centimeters and on the same side of the body, mark 2 centimeters out from the belly button. The last site of testing is the suprailiac. You'll find the natural line of the iliac bone and go just superior to that and make a line in the direction of the bone, so it's a diagonal test. Now for the actual testing, you want to make sure your client is relaxed. For review major marking, you're going to pull the skin out just a little. Try separating the fat from the muscle. Take the skin caliper and place it at the base of what you've pulled out. Let it sit for a second before you take your reading. The numbers on the dial, and then press the button and take it away. Next, you'll ask the client to turn around and continue on the next 2 sites. Again, a couple pinches, pull the skin out, open the caliper, place it at the base, take your reading, open it again, take it away from the client. You'll do each site 3 times, rotating between the 3. Make sure you don't do all 3 at one site at one time. Again, the 3 testing sites on women is the tricep, the abdominal, and the suprailiac.
All right, so I just wanted you to see what the Skinfold test is. That is where they're measuring. So if you want to reduce the amount of skin around your waist, around your arms, around your shoulders, I just showed you some very impressive results of Guggul sterones in an herbal remedy. And that was just at 50 milligrams of this stuff. In CardioFlow is 300 milligrams per dose. And it's even more effective and it's dose dependent. The higher the dose, the better the effects. All right, so here's the effect of those tablets that include gugulsterone on CRP. This is that C-reactive protein and inflammatory marker, 4.6 down to 3.5 over a 3-month period of taking it and an extra month off. All right, so here's the discussion that the researchers using this remedy for obesity, we observed that this remedy, including gugulsterone, significantly reduced the circumference measurements and skin fold thickness, though it did not show any statistical or clinical significant change in weight and corresponding BMI, but all of those were improved. It is, however, interesting to note that this formula did not allow further increase in any of those parameters in anybody. So they didn't see increase in weight. They didn't see increase in BMI. It either stayed steady and went down, and then they saw significant numbers in the skin fold test and circumference measurements of the neck, waist, and shoulders. This study formulation had ingredients other than triphala, such as Guggul and this Garcinia, which may have affected its overall efficacy. And then they write this, because it wasn't just Guggul. There are 9 clinical studies available on Guggul, Guggul, supporting its anti-obesity and anti-cholesterol activity all by itself. In our study, it was observed, they said the decrease in circumference measurements. The participants in the studies, both male and females, had elevated baseline neck circumference values, and afterwards interventions, a significant decrease was seen. Skin fold thickness, which is a very specific and sensitive predictor for obesity, they saw a significant reduction in the thickness of these 2 skin folds along with triceps and the waistline in all participants, not just in some, in all of them. Now let's look at the gugulsterone isolated by itself in a high-fat diet in animal studies, particularly diabetic rats, which if it's a diabetic rat, it's the same for diabetic humans. 2 gugulsterone isotopes called E and Z are the most important constituents studied in detail for their therapeutic potential from the tree, abbreviated C. muckle, which I showed at the beginning of this presentation. Various studies have been conducted to understand and illustrate the mechanism at which the action and potential of gugulsterone as a therapeutic agent using these 2 forms of gugulsterones. The aim of this study was to find out what is its lowering blood sugar and lowering blood fats called lipids and cholesterol. What is the nature of gugulsterone's ability to do that in type 2 diabetic animals, particularly rats? On the basis of results obtained from a broad range of experiments, it is evident that gugulsterone is not only effective at lipid-lowering agent, cholesterol-lowering agent, but at the same time has the ability to combat different targets of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance is typically in a type 2 diabetic. They have high amounts of insulin or normal amounts of insulin, but the insulin's not breaking down blood sugar. Gugulsterones helps to reverse that. Experiments were carried out on pathogen-free, so no viruses, bacteria, fungi, or parasites, male Wistar rats of age 3 to 4 weeks. These were the 4 groups of animals as they divided them. Group 1 had a normal pellet diet. Group 2 had a high-fat diet, and they were diabetic. Group 3 were high-fat diet-fed rats, so they're diabetic, and they were treated with 75 milligrams per 2.2 pounds of body weight of gugulsterone. The treatment group in this study is those given gugulsterone alone, and they're diabetics. Group 4 had a high-fat diet, fed rats treated with only 20 milligrams of a diabetes drug called Metformin. And many of y'all know what Metformin is. So you have normal rats being fed a normal diet. Then you have a group 2 is high-fat diet who are now diabetes-confirmed rats. Then they took diabetes-confirmed rats. They gave them group 3 gugulsterones. Group 4, they gave them Metformin, a diabetes drug. At the bottom, you'll see groups 3 and 4 were gavaged with or given gugulsterones and Metformin respectively for another 8 weeks. Rats from groups 1 and 2 received normal salt water called saline as their control substance. They weren't given gugulsterones or Metformin. This is what they found. The effects of gugulsterone and Metformin alone, we're looking at gugulsterones, fasting blood sugar glucose, and glucose tolerance test. 2 things every diabetes doctor and diabetes patients pay attention to. Fasting blood glucose and glucose tolerance tests were determined after 8 weeks of treatment with Guggul. On completion of the 8 weeks of treatment, glucose tolerance test was performed by oral administration of glucose load. They gave them just sugar of 1 gram per kilogram of body weight in water to overnight fasted animals. Blood samples were collected from the tail vein at 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120, and 150 minutes. They didn't wait days after giving them Guggul. They wanted to know how fast, within minutes, does this lower their blood sugar. The effects on fasting glucose level and glucose tolerance. Rats fed with high-fat diet showed high level of fasting blood sugar in comparison to the control. So that would be group 2 compared to group 1 and the treated counterparts. However, this level, blood glucose level and glucose tolerance test, was reduced down close to that of the control rat, the rats that didn't have diabetes, with just the 75 milligrams of for every 2.2 pounds of body weight of the Guggul group. So when they gave the group of diabetes rats just Guggul, their blood sugar and their glucose tolerance almost was identical as the normal animals that don't have diabetes. They almost made them look completely normal and not diabetic just with Guggul. This is the chart out of the research study. Look at blood glucose levels as the measurement on the left. Time is at the bottom. So you'll see FBG stands for fasting blood glucose. Then you'll see they took the blood at 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120, and 150 minutes. Now look at what they're testing. Look at the line graphs. This is the blood sugar level for every minute for the diabetes animals. Line A. This is the Guggul levels. Look at how fast it drops within 30, 60, 90, 120 minutes, 150 minutes. And this is the Metformin group. Look at how almost identical the Metformin and the Guggul levels are. I think that's amazing. And Guggul doesn't have any of the toxic side effects that Metformin does. Here's a bar graph representing the same info. You see the blood sugar levels of the diabetes animals. The treated group is the Guggul group and the Metformin group. Now let's look at the insulin levels, because insulin's important in type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1, they don't make enough insulin. Type 2, they are making insulin, but it ain't working. The animals fed the high-fat diet resulted in almost 2.5 increase in plasma insulin levels as compared to the normal animals. However, on treatment with Guggul, the diabetic rats showed a marked decrease in that insulin level, which would be beneficial for type 2 diabetics, as compared to the untreated diabetic group. And here you'll see it. This is the insulin levels look at the diabetic group. Their insulin levels was at 8.3 compared to the normal rats. When they gave them Guggul, it almost went back down to normal to 4.5. The drug called Metformin, it went to 4.1. You're still in the same range as the Guggul alone. This is where it gets really exciting for me. Everyone has been told that fats are bad for you and statin drugs are needed. And I promise you, the majority of the people listening to this have a loved one or themselves have been told they need to get on a statin drug to lower their cholesterol. I'm about to show you that Guggul alone is either as effective or even more effective than every single statin drug out there. Here's the effects of Guggul on plasma lipid profile. Lipid means fats. Cholesterol is a fat. Treatment with Guggul showed significant improvement in lipid profile. The level of harmful lipids like TC, LDL, which is called bad cholesterol, TC is total cholesterol, VLDL cholesterol, and TG were significantly reduced. In addition, HDL levels, which is your good cholesterol level, was found to be increased by 43%. This is massive. You'll see this one typically on a blood panel as HDL, they want it above 50. And most people don't have it above 50. This is the good cholesterol, supposedly. This increased it by 43% in just a few weeks. Guggul by itself. So here are the different plasma levels in the blood of different lipids after the administration of Guggul. You'll see the control animals. So think of a normal human that doesn't have diabetes. Then you see the total cholesterol levels of the diabetic rats. The normal rats, normal humans, was 154. When they made them diabetic rats by feeding them a high-fat diet, whatever it was they gave them, their cholesterol levels total was 220. When they gave the rats that were diabetics Guggul, their cholesterol level total went down to 166. not too far off the control or normal animals. Look at metformin, the diabetes drug. It brought it down to 173. Well, that's not 166. Glucosterones outperformed metformin in its ability to improve cholesterol levels. HDL cholesterol for the treated group was 40, but look at the diabetic rats. It was 28.5. The higher, the better. Metformin had it at 45, which means it was better than the glucosterones, but not far better. And then LDL cholesterol, that's what they call the bad cholesterol, even though it's not bad for you, but they call it bad. You'll see in the diabetic group, it's at 112. Look at after using glucosterones alone, it dropped to 83, which was better than metformin. Glucosterones outperform metformin at lowering total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. And then you're going to get to total glucose, 210, 190 for the metformin. But look at the diabetic rats. It was at 398. Glucosterones dropped it to 210. Isn't that amazing? I'm sorry, I said total glucose. TG stands for triglycerides. So do you know anybody with high triglycerides? Look at what glucosterones alone did. It dropped it from 398 in a diabetic rat down to 210. That's almost by half. Metformin actually did drop it by half to 190, but glucosterones alone did it. Now, this substance called G6P-ACE is an important target for anti-diabetic agents, drugs, as its activity increases due to type 2 diabetes conditions. Treatment with glucosterone resulted in a significant reduction of 22% in this substance's activity in this study. Insulin resistance, which is type 2 diabetes issues, is a causal factor of slow systemic blood glucose clearance and a defect in what's called GLUT4 expression. In our study, we're just talking about insulin resistance. In our study, also expression of GLUT4 was significantly low in adipocyte fat cells and muscle tissues of diabetes animals as compared to the controls. And the treatment group with glucosterone resulted in a profound increase in its expression, which helps you to improve insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. In kidneys, the treated rats demonstrated a clear reduction in the expression of aldose reductase, which is an enzyme which is responsible for diabetes-related complications. Everyone should know that diabetics have kidney failure as a long-term side effect. Glucosterones reduces aldose reductase, which contributes to kidney dysfunction and disease for diabetes. There's also something called tumor necrotic factor, which is for tumors. Expression of tumor necrotic factor was upregulated in diabetes rats, and treatment with glucosterone led to its significant decrease. It showed an increased expression after the treatment with glucosterone in adipose or fat cells. The uptake of sugar in muscle tissues, meaning to burn up the glucose so you don't have high levels of blood sugar, was improved with glucosterones. Incubation in the presence of glucosterone at 100 milligrams per liter of blood resulted in about 50% increase in blood sugar uptake in 30 minutes by itself, meaning your body will burn up the blood sugar, after which it continued further for up until 150 minutes after the test. In the presence of insulin, increasing glucose uptake was not much improved beyond the effect shown by the phytochemical alone, which could be attributed to the fact that the tissues were insulin resistant. Glucosterones has an amazing ability to improve insulin resistance. Here is the effect of glucosterones on glucose uptake in the psoas muscle, which is on your hips and thighs. And you can see the numbers there. This is the disease process studies. They took sections of the pancreas, liver, fat tissue from glucosterone-treated rats. The glucosterones showed a cell protective effect from this chemical in the plant. It also showed a small reduction in the size of B cells in the pancreas in high-fat diet rats was observed, which was again normalized in rats treated with glucosterone. So the diabetes rats had smaller pancreatic B cells, and then they actually got larger, which means they could produce more insulin for diabetic rats with glucosterone. While on the treatment with glucosterones, there was a significant reduction in the size of fat cells. Do you want to reduce the size of your fat cells? Similarly, liver tissues from diabetic rats showed marks of severe steatosis and accumulation of lipid droplets as compared to the control animal liver. However, treatment with glucosterone not only reversed this deformity, but at the same time did not show any signs of toxicity. You know anybody with a fatty liver? You know anybody with a beer belly? They should be on glucosterone. It shrinks fat cells and liver cells. They even show you what it looks like. A and C. A is the normal rat. Look at the middle one. Those are fat cells. A is the normal rat. B is the diabetes rat. Look how much bigger the fat cells are. And then look at the Guggul lipid treatment group. F. You see it? F. So D, E, F are the fat cells. Sorry, the middle images. The fat cells of a normal liver and an animal. E is the diabetes one. Look how much bigger the fat cells are. And F, look how much they shrink. Pretty impressive. Diabetes is a chronic metabolic disorder considered to be among 5 most life-threatening diseases. The so-called Western lifestyle resulted in obesity. High blood cholesterol, high blood pressure is supposed to be the root cause for these disorders. The disease process link between obesity and type 2 diabetes lies in a multitude of factors. The connection between obesity and diabetes, which includes changes in fat cell distribution and metabolism, muscle metabolism, as well as alterations in the level of carbohydrates, fatty acids, and fat cells called adipocytes, derived factors, which include leptin, tumor necrotic factor A, adiponectin, and resistin. Skeletal muscle is quantitatively the most important tissue involved in dissolving and burning up blood sugar. It accounts for 80% of blood sugar disposal following glucose infusion or ingestion. When you eat sugar, your skeletal muscle is supposed to burn up 80% of the blood sugar. Glucosterone treated group of animals during oral glucose tolerance testing blood sugar results in rats raised the possibility that this plant might have some promising effects on one or more targets in muscle tissue. Glucosterones had resulted in a significant improvement in glucose uptake, burning blood sugar in your skeletal muscles. High G6 pace and low hexokinase activity, please don't try to memorize that, is a characteristic feature of insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, which results in high blood sugar. Treatment with glucosteroids resulted in the inversion of this condition in the treated group. It lowered each of these. What is G6 pace? I just wanted y'all to know it actually has a real name, glucose 6 phosphatase. The actual researchers say this: remarkable changes were observed in the adipose tissue of glucosterone treated group, along with a significant improvement in the expression profile of targeted genes. How many of you have heard Oprah Winfrey talk about being fat is a genetic disease? You need Ozempic. Nope, not true. Glucosterone can actually correct it all. A preliminary idea about the mechanism of action of glucosterone is that it increased the expression of GLUT4 and at the same time reduced expression of tumor necrotic factor, explains how it improves insulin resistance, which helps you burn fat. Fat cells called adipocytes from treated groups were significantly smaller than in its diabetic counterparts. Smaller adipocytes are considered as healthy ones that secrete factors like leptin and adiponectin, which improves insulin-resistant conditions. Glucosterones helps with type 2 diabetes, people. In this context, the high-fat diet fed to the rats in our experiments also showed dramatic reduction in pancreatic islets, which improved significantly in response to glucosterone. Pancreatic islet cells help control diabetes and blood sugar. They shrink in a high-fat diet, these diabetes rats, but it was improved significantly when they gave them glucosterone. We're going to skip some of those because I want to get into more about glucosterone. Remember, if I skip over any of these, go to the patient resource tab at the Dr. Ardis Show and download this entire PowerPoint because all of it is there. And if you want to share this information with your endocrinologist, your weight loss specialist, you might want to, so they know how to better help assist you improve your health. Googling the Google for prevention of chronic diseases. Glucosterone, Guggul Resin extract, you'll see it on the right-hand side of this screen, come from this Commiphora, Guggul tree I showed you earlier, and Boswellia, the plant. And according to PubMed, if you Google glucosterones, there are 449 research studies on the tree, Commiphora, 519 on Boswellia, and 207 on glucosterone alone, the extract of it, and then 329 on Boswellia acid and 90 on Guggul, with earliest being in 1960, describing the anti-arthritis and anti-inflammatory activity of this Guggul. You'll see Google's in the middle. When they looked at, these researchers looked at all research studies on PubMed.gov. They wanted to know what all ways have researchers studied Google extract impacting the health of all diseases. Well, just look at the list. On the left, you'll see in vitro studies. These are lab studies. They saw improvements in Alzheimer's, arthritis, cancer, intestinal disorders, inflammatory bowel disease, otitis media, hearing issues, obesity, and uveitis, iritis, eye inflammation. And then melanomas in the skin. How many of you knew that? And then in human studies and animal studies, they found arthritis improvement, cancer, diabetes, infectious diseases, inflammatory bowel disease, pancreatitis is improved with Google, and eye inflammation. At the bottom, you'll see they in this research, they discovered Google steroids has liver protective effects, brain protective effects. It's anti-inflammatory. It's antioxidant like vitamin C. It's heart protective, thyroid stimulating. It lowers lipids and it lowers cholesterol and it improves kidney function and it protects the kidneys from drug damage. They found all the clinical trials above that were specifically studying its effect on arthritis, asthma, breast tumors, eczema, psoriasis, gingivitis, inflammatory bowel disease, and nodulocystic acne. In vivo studies at the top. These are in the body studies with both Commiphora and Boswellia with Google in it. This is what they're studying in all chronic diseases. I want to highlight these for you. We're staying high level here. We're not going to dive in yet. Promising after effects of Commiphora and Boswellia against various chronic diseases in the lab setting has led to a handful of in-the-body studies where the efficacy of Google was evaluated in different experiment models of diverse chronic diseases such as cancer, inflammatory, cardiovascular, metabolic disorders, arthritis, asthma, and atherosclerosis. Several studies have reported the anti-tumor efficacy of Google in different cancers, such as breast cancer, esophageal cancer, head cancer, neck cancer, pancreatic cancer, and prostate cancer. Whew, this stuff is amazing. I bet anybody listening to this knows anybody affected with those cancers or diseases. Google steroids suppressed esophageal tumor cell viability. Anybody know anybody with esophageal cancer? That has a 90% death rate. If you've ever heard of anybody with esophageal ulcers, Barrett's esophagus, or esophageal tumors, they should be on Google steroid extract. They should be on our CardioFlow. Treatment with Google lipid was shown to cause reduced growth of various tumor cells. In case of prostate cancer as well, Google has been found to be highly effective in human studies. Administration of Google steroids prevented in the body angiogenesis of prostate cancer cells, the development of new cancer cells. Apart from cancer, the efficacy of Google was well proven in different inflammatory diseases such as arthritis, colitis, bowel inflammation, gastritis, stomach inflammation, irritable bowel disease, pancreatitis, and iritis, inflammation of the eyes, pronounced uveitis. Treatment with Google decreased the thickness of your joint swelling, reduced the infiltration of leukocytes, white blood cells, into the pleura cavity of the lungs and heart. It suppressed the pro-inflammatory cytokines and increased beta-glucuronidase activity in the body. Reduces inflammation everywhere. In addition, Google reduced the severity of irritable bowel disease, and it tells you how with those markers. Administration of Google steroids resulted in the mitigation or resolution of disease damage, suppressed lipase levels, neutrophils, macrophages. These are autoimmune disease markers, everybody. And cytokine production and pancreatitis. Well, I had a grandfather that was in the hospital for 3 weeks with pancreatitis. Google steroids was one of the things I gave him to get him out in 24 hours of the hospital, like 15 years ago. Google steroids inhibited the expression of endotoxin-induced iritis, inflammation and pain of the eyes, and those markers that they look for to confirm it. Google extract exhibited profound cardioprotective effects, heart protective effects in lab studies with humans. It decreased lipid peroxide, and then all those beautiful markers that reverse heart inflammation and disease. And you'll see at the very bottom, it reversed the cardiac damage induced by isoproterenol. They found Google steroids reverses the damage that is induced on the heart by isoproterenol. Do y'all know what that is? I'm about to show you. Guggul Sterones that is in CardioFlow reverses damage of the heart of something called isoproterenol. Well, let's look at what that is. On drugs.com, isoproterenol and its use is below. Did you know this is a prescription drug used to treat certain types of abnormal heartbeats? Did you know it's used to treat heart failure, a weak heart? It's also used to treat shock. Did you know that it causes heart damage, the drug that they give you for heart symptoms? Did you know Guggul Sterones reverses the damage caused by the prescription drug? There's its highlights. Isoproterenol side effects. I want to give you some other ones. Look at it below. Nervousness, headache, dizziness, restlessness, insomnia, anxiety, tension, blurry vision, fear, excitement. It causes tachycardia, has side effects of palpitations, chest pain called angina. It causes pulmonary edema, fluid to accumulate in your lungs, which is what killed my father-in-law. Hypertension, hypotension, ventricular arrhythmias, AFib anybody? Tachyarrhythmias, changes in your heart rhythm, flushing of the skin, diaphoresis, mild tremors, Parkinson's anybody, and weakness. Did you know that drug does all that? And they prescribe it to people who have these conditions: abnormal heartbeats and heart failure. It causes those problems. Well, it also causes damage to the heart, and Guggul Sterone reverses it. Look at the top, read the two red highlighted sentences. Guggul exhibited profound heart protective effects in human studies, as well as reversed the heart damage induced by that drug. Guggul also diminishes high blood cholesterol, improved blood glucose in fasting conditions, improved plasma insulin levels, glucose tolerance, and the level of harmful cholesterol levels. Guggul Sterones also reversed nerve damage and memory deficits in mice by increasing glutathione levels in the brain. Apart from these, administration of Guggul Sterones was found to increase thyroid function by enhancing iodine uptake, which we discussed earlier. It improved the activities of thyroid peroxidase, which is what they diagnose you with autoimmune thyroid diseases with, and it ameliorates hypothyroidism. It reverses hypothyroidism through its ability to increase thyroid hormones. Wow. What an amazing substance. Human studies on Guggul has found to be effective against different diseases such as asthma, breast tumors, chronic kidney disease, colitis, Crohn's disease, fasciolitis. I don't even know what that is. You can go look it up. Hepatitis C, hypercholesterolemia, high cholesterol, high fats, metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and a huge waistline. Nodular cystic acne is improved with Guggul Sterone. Arthritis, schistomiasis, parasite infections, stress, and urinary incontinence. Anybody out there with urinary incontinence? Did you know Guggul Sterone reverses it? Let's look at some of the trials in which they have summarized its super amazing effects for these conditions. They even give you the doses, so pay attention, take out your camera, take pictures, or go get the PowerPoint at the Patient Resources tab at the Dr. Ardis Show. At the top, you'll see clinical trials of Guggul extracts with humans. They found asthma. Look to the right. What was the clinical outcome? It improved the disease condition, and it was effective at both doses of 900 milligrams a day and 500 milligrams a day for 6 weeks. Anybody out there know anybody with asthma? You might want to recommend CardioFlow because it has Guggul Sterones at 300 milligrams a dose, and you could get the 900 milligrams or 500 milligrams just by doubling or tripling the dose of CardioFlow daily. Breast nodules, reduction in those. What's Guggul Sterones? CKD, chronic kidney disease. They saw it safe and tolerable at 516 milligrams a day. Colitis, inflammation. Research studies on humans found that inflammation of the intestines was reversed at 900 milligrams a day up to 1,000 milligrams a day. Crohn's disease. They used it up to 2,400 milligrams in human studies, and they found it to be safe and effective and well tolerated. Safe and effective at reversing Crohn's disease symptoms. Whatever fasciolitis is, inflammation of the fascia probably, safe and well tolerated at 12 milligrams and 600 milligrams a day. What is fasciolitis? I just told you I didn't know what it was. I was joking. Here it is right here. It's a worm from a parasite. Fasciola. This is from the CDC's website. If you want to see what that little worm looks like on the right-hand side, Guggul Sterone kills that stuff. This is from the CDC, by the way. Did you know that arthritis, Guggul has been reported to exhibit high effectivity against arthritis? In one study, 30 patients with arthritis were treated with gum Guggul for 1 month, only 1 month, which resulted in remarkable improvement in the total scores, these tests they used to measure the severity of arthritis. Another study was conducted to check the safety, tolerability, and efficacy of B. serrata extract in 30 patients with knee osteoarthritis. This is Boswellia that has Guggul lipid resin. The patients receiving the drug treatment received a decrease in knee pain and swelling of the knee joint, as well as increased knee flexion and walking distance. Anybody out there want to improve your distance you can move and the ease at which you can move and walk? Guggul Sterones and CardioFlow is your buddy. Until I come out with a isolated Guggul Sterone supplement, which we will very soon. Asthma. Notably, Boswellia has been found to be effective in the treatment of this disease. In a study with 40 patients, they found suffering from bronchial asthma. They were treated with only 300 milligrams of gum resin. That's what's in our CardioFlow, 1 a day dose, 2 capsules. They gave them 300 milligrams 3 times a day for a period of 6 weeks. This led to improved prognosis. Around 70% of the patients had better improvements in their asthma. Various signs and symptoms of bronchial asthma like rhonchi, dyspnea, inability to take in a deep breath, and attacks disappeared upon treatment. They didn't have any more asthma reactions in 70% of the people they gave it to in 1 month, 6 weeks. Breast nodules. Boswellia, betaine, myo-inositol resulted in decreased fibroadenoma, dimension in young women. Any of y'all feeling nodules in your breast you're getting scared of, you might want to put them on CardioFlow or get Guggul resin extract isolated. The combination also resulted in reduced fibroadenoma volume in 38% of the patients in the experimental group, whereas the same was observed only in 17.85% of the patients in the placebo group. There was twice as much improvements in patients taking Guggul Sterones. Chronic kidney disease. They found that an effective regimen was obtained in reducing inflammation in patients with chronic kidney disease. Moreover, this regimen was found to be safe, well tolerated, which also enhanced the levels of inflammatory cytokines in chronic kidney disease. Cardiovascular disease, people. That's why it's in CardioFlow, very first thing. Why I formulated it. Notably, Guggul presents a potent remedy for cardiovascular diseases. For example, Singh and group conducted a study to evaluate the heart protective effects of Guggul by enrolling 200 patients suffering from ischemic heart disease. Ask your cardiologist if CardioFlow is right for you. The patients were treated with a combination of gum Guggul and inula racemasa, an herb, for 6 months, which resulted in the reduced levels of total cholesterol, triglyceride, total blood lipids in the patient. It also restored back to normal their ECGs in 26% of the patients, showed improvement of ECG in 59% of the patients, and lessened the chest pain in 25% of all of them. What about diabetes, which we've talked about it at length here? Studies have shown in human studies, the gum resin of the Commiphora tree and Boswellia are highly effective against diabetes. The treatment of patients with diabetes with this gum at 900 milligrams a day for 6 weeks orally resulted in decreased risk factors associated with this disease. The treatment also helped in maintaining fructosamine levels, hepatic liver enzyme activities, and to bring lipid profiles close to normal levels in those patients just in 6 weeks. Eczema and psoriasis. Eczema, also known as dermatitis and psoriasis, are caused mainly due to inflammation of the skin. Boswellia has been found to exert effectiveness against eczema and psoriasis. CardioFlow, anybody? Our clear skin complex, anybody? In a double-blind study, the efficacy of a novel formulation of these 2 Guggul extracts in something called Bosexol, a patented form of this, improvement was seen in psoriasis scales in 70% of the cases. Erythema in 50% of the cases was observed. In addition, when eczema patients were administered this combination with Guggul, it showed improvements in both erythema, redness, and raised rashes, and itches in 60% of the cases in both, without causing any waning. Those parasitic worms I showed you, they found it effective against that. They found 7 patients who were passing the eggs of these worms in their stools displayed distinct improvement of the general condition, drop in the egg count, and improvement of all signs and symptoms with no adverse effects after treatment with Guggul Sterones. Inflammatory bowel disease. Gum resin was found to be effective in the treatment of chronic colitis with minimal side effects. Anybody got intestinal inflammation diseases? Celiac, IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis? You should be on our CardioFlow product or be on Guggul Sterones alone. 900 milligrams a day you see there for 6 weeks. They saw improvements in everything. Continuing there, more highlights on inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis. Patients with grade 2 and grade 3 ulcerative colitis were treated with Guggul resins of 350 milligrams 3 times a day for 6 weeks. Stool properties, disease process, and inflammation. They did microscope biopsies, blood parameters with hemoglobin, iron, calcium, phosphorus, proteins, leukocytes, white blood cells, and eosinophils showed slightly better improvement in the Boswellia treated groups. Acne, we already talked about this at length, but I want to show you the study in the second highlighted sentence. Thapa and Dogra patients with nodulocystic acne were given Guggul equivalent to 25 milligrams for 3 months, which resulted in progressive reduction in lesions in majority of patients. However, patients with the most oily faces displayed better responses to Guggul. That's why it's the second highest ingredient in my Clear Skin Complex for acne. Conclusion. Gum resin Guggul possesses multiple pharmacological activities, drug-like activities, especially lowering lipids, anti-obesity, anti-inflammatory, anti-tumor, heart protective, brain protective, hepatoprotective, thyroid stimulating. It effectively regulates different transcription factors, enzymes, inflammatory cytokines, and anti-apoptotic proteins, which are involved in inflammation, cancer growth, and diagnosis, and other chronic diseases. This is HCl. Do y'all know what HCl is? I'm going to run through these pretty quick. You guys can go download this. HCl is hairy cell leukemia, a white blood cell cancer. They found it effective at 1,500 milligrams, mild side effects, if any, well tolerated. It's incredible at the doses. Just so you know, HCl stands for hairy cell leukemia. There's the Mayo Clinic. HLD, what does that stand for? High lipid disease. Metabolic syndrome, very effective at 2 pills a day. Acne, reduced inflammatory lesions at 50 milligrams a day. Osteoarthritis, look at those various doses. Safe and well tolerated, safe and effective, safe and well tolerated. All these are studies in humans. If you have arthritis, cardio flow, baby. How about polyarthritis underneath there? That's multiple arthritis. It's gouty arthritis, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis at 3,600 milligrams a day. They didn't see much effect for all of those. RT-related edema. Anybody got swollen ankles, limbs? Do you? They found it effective, and it reduced even brain swelling, 4,200 milligrams. Schistosomiasis, another parasite worm that looks like this and creates symptoms like this. It was well tolerated and safe and effective at 600 milligrams a day. SUI. Anybody out there got this scenario? Anybody know what that means? It stands for stress urinary incontinence. Are you peeing on yourself? Can't control it? They've even found it effective against that, up to 4 grams a day. These are its heart benefits. I may not have time to run through all of these for this presentation, and that's okay. You just need to know these are studies on lipid profiles. I'm going to actually skip through some of this because I want to get to... There's a lot of information here, people. We're getting into all of the heart effects. So let's show this now. 125 patients were treated with Guggul at 500 milligrams a day for 12 weeks, whereas 108 patients were treated with clofibrate at the same dose. At the end of the study, Guggul significantly decreased total serum cholesterol by 11% and triglycerides by 17%. The beneficial effects of Guggul became evident within the first 3 to 4 weeks of the study. In addition, HDL level was increased to 60% of the responders to Guggul therapy, whereas clofibrate for lowering cholesterol had no effect on HDL levels. So you didn't see improvement in the good cholesterol at all. More detailed analysis of these results indicated that high cholesterol patients responded better to Guggul therapy than they did to high triglyceride patients than did the high cholesterol patients, and vice versa for clofibrate. Guggul extract did better than clofibrate did in the study. These results indicate that long-term therapy, 24 weeks with Guggul in conjunction with dietary modification, significantly reduces cholesterol and lipid levels in patients with high cholesterol. Don't forget it, people. For the subjects, 45 of them with high levels of LDL at 160, the bad cholesterol, Guggul treatment significantly reduced serum triglycerides 14% and 10% decreases for the high and low dose groups. whereas triglyceride levels increased by 10% in subjects who did not get get Guggul lipid extract. Here's its anti-inflammatory reactions and effects. At 2,000 milligrams a day, they saw that level improve by 29%. I want to come back out of here because all of you can look at this at home. Here's our concluding remarks. Guggul and Guggul lipid have a long history in the treatment of cardiovascular diseases, including high cholesterol and plaquing of the arteries. Preclinical and clinical studies largely support the therapeutic claims for Guggul described in the ancient Ayurvedic texts. The cardiovascular therapeutic benefits of Guggul and Guggul sterone appear to be due to the multiple pharmacological activities, notably lowering lipids, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory effects. For its hypolipidemic activity, individual variations in responding to Guggul treatment are consistently observed in the clinical trials. They always improve. I want to encourage you to go download the presentation, share it with people, but we put more information than I can cover in the timeline that most people can actually focus on. But I needed to drive it home that nutrients found in nature are just as effective and safer than many, many drugs used for diabetes, heart failure, heart arrhythmias, heart conditions. Guggul sterone is even more effective than statin drugs and safer in most cases. In CardioFlow at the Dr. Ardis Show, you will see the very first ingredient is Guggul extract. Guggul sterones at 300 milligrams. That's 2 capsules, and you can use more or less. Always consult your cardiologist if you actually have been diagnosed with a heart disease of any kind. In our clear skin complex, you will find it's actually Guggul resin extract in our proprietary blend of various plant-based products. It is the second product in it, behind something found in cruciferous vegetables, diindolyl methane, DIM. Guggul resin extract to help improve your skin. You saw it for acne, psoriasis, and eczema in these research studies and human trials. Don't forget to get our book, Moving Beyond the COVID-19 Lies. Scan that code there. You can get it also at thedrardisshow.com, or you can just scan that code there. Get yours today, and it would make a great gift for anybody on their birthdays, holidays, you name it. And remember to scan our code. I'm Dr. Ardis. Let me stop sharing the presentation here. My goal is to educate you on all of the promises found in nature that are safe, effective, and proven in both lab studies, animal studies, and human studies. And I truly believe if you will implement Guggul sterones, you will see an improvement in cardiovascular function, cholesterol, arthritis, blood sugar handling, and I hope and pray will be a massive blessing to you. I hope CardioFlow and Clear Skin Complex and any Guggul products we represent and present in the future for all people worldwide provide benefits to your health. That is our goal here, is to restore your faith in nature. I'm Dr. Ardis. Have a great week.